Jack was the only human on Outpost 47, a small alien mining station floating near the edge of a dead star system. Surrounded by broken moons and drifting rocks, it was cold, dark, and lonely. The outpost was run by different alien species, tall ones with shining eyes, short ones with sharp claws, and others who smelled like acid. But Jack, he was the strange one, the soft skin, the joke. The aliens often laughed when he walked by. Some of them mimicked his way of speaking. Others called him slow ape behind his back. No one respected him, not even the robot assistants Jack had. No weapons, no high-tech implants, no armor like the others. Just his bare hands and a simple mining drill he carried like an old friend. But Jack never complained. He woke up before everyone else, worked harder, and never asked for help. He cleaned the corridors, fixed broken machines, and carried heavy loads. The aliens mocked him more because he never fought back. They thought he was weak, a relic from a forgotten race, but Jack was patient, quiet, watchful. One day, during a routine scan deep in the lower caves, Jack picked up a strange energy signal. It was coming from a sealed-off tunnel under the rock layers, marked dangerous and off-limits. The other miners refused to go near it. Some said it was haunted. Others said ancient tech inside had killed people before. Jack didn't believe in ghosts, and danger didn't scare him anymore. When his shift ended, Jack returned with a portable scanner. The signal was still there, pulsing, steady, like a heartbeat. Curiosity burned in his chest. He picked up his tools and slipped away into the shadows. He climbed down old ladders and crawled through forgotten vents, his hands bleeding from sharp edges, his breath heavy from the dust. At the end of the tunnel, he found a hidden door covered in thick stone. It wasn't alien. It looked older, sharper. Built from metal that shimmered in the dark, Jack placed his hand on the door, and to his surprise, it glowed softly and opened with a deep hiss. Behind it lay a massive chamber, untouched for centuries. The air inside was dry and thick with silence. Strange symbols glowed faintly on the walls. And at the center stood the wreckage of an ancient spaceship. It was cracked, covered in vines and dust. But still powerful, the ship was like nothing Jack had seen before, not even in history archives. Something about it felt alive. Jack stepped inside. Every panel was dead, every console cold. But when he touched one of the walls, the ship whispered to him, not in words, but in feelings, fear, hope, waiting. It welcomed him behind the pilot's chair. He saw a strange, metallic suit standing tall. It looked like armor, shaped for a humanoid body, but larger and more advanced than anything used by the current galaxy. Its surface pulsed faintly with blue light, as if sensing him. Jack stood frozen. He could hear laughter echoing in his mind, alien laughter from the outpost, mocking him again. But here, in this dark, forgotten place, no one was laughing. The suit slowly opened with a soft mechanical hum, inviting him inside. Jack took a breath. His fingers trembled. He knew if he stepped inside, everything could change. Maybe he would die. Maybe he would become something else, but he had lived too long being the joke. The background, the forgotten one. He stepped forward. As soon as his foot touched the inside of the armor, it wrapped around him like a living creature, not hurting him, but becoming part of him. Lights flared. The ship came to life, and Jack's body surged with power. He didn't scream, he just closed his eyes as ancient knowledge, old commands, and long-lost languages filled his mind. Above him, a dormant beacon began to pulse again for the first time in 1,000 years. Back at the outpost, the aliens noticed the sudden shift in energy underground. They laughed at first, assuming it was another human mistake. But Jack wasn't a joke anymore. Something was coming. Something had awakened. And Jack was now its chosen bearer. The armor had changed everything. Jack didn't remember how long he stood inside the wrecked ship. His body fused with something older than any empire, older than even the myths. The armor had not just covered his body, had spoken to his mind, not with words, but with images, emotions. Memories from a war that burned through galaxies when he finally stepped out of the chamber. His footsteps echoed differently, heavier, sharper. The tunnels that once felt dark and cramped now opened before him like paths carved by destiny. The sensors in the armor scanned the stone around him, revealing hidden data ancient power lines, escape shafts, even skeletons buried deep under. Rock, as Jack made his way back to the main shaft, he noticed something strange. The walls began to pulse faintly, like veins coming back to life. A quiet hum followed him, almost like a song, low and deep. The armor wasn't just waking him, it was waking everything. He reached the surface hours later, covered in dust and silence. His armor had faded into a dull black, almost invisible under his clothes. But his eyes now glowed faintly, and something deep inside him was no longer human alone. Back at the outpost, the aliens were gathered around the mess hall, laughing again. This time, one of them had drawn a crude image of Jack on the wall, teeny and weak, being stepped on by a giant alien boot. They cheered and laughed until the lights flickered, the power dimmed, then surged. Another human screw-up, one of the techs muttered. But then a low signal began to echo through the Kumsa frequency that hadn't been used in 10,000 years. Their systems couldn't identify it, but something was pinging them from under the outpost. Not a distress call, not a warning. Just presence. Jack entered the room silently, the shadows folding around him. The laughter died almost instantly when the nearest alien looked up and saw his eyes glowing like twin stars beneath a calm face. What happened to you?" one of them asked, standing up. Jack didn't answer. He simply placed a small device on the table, shard of the ancient ship, still humming with energy. As soon as it touched the surface, the station lights flickered again and the walls shook. Slightly, the armor inside Jack whispered again, this time clearly. "They have forgotten who ruled this galaxy." The aliens backed away, confused and frightened. The bravest one reached for a weapon, but it jammed. The armor systems had already disabled every weapon in the room. Silently, without warning. "I'm not here to fight," Jack said finally. His voice deeper, heavier. "I just want to work, like I always have," but his calm words only made them more nervous. They saw what he carried now, what pulsed under his skin. And some began to whisper behind closed doors. "The human has found something. The relic has awakened. He's not weak anymore." That night, the armor led Jack back into the wreckage, deeper this time. He didn't resist. The armor knew where it was going, through twisting halls and collapsed passageways. They reached a chamber no one had entered for eons. In the center stood a throne, half broken, surrounded by walls filled with carvings, images of a warrior wearing the same armor Jack now wore. Leading fleets, destroying stars, making empires. "Kneel." The throne lit up as he approached, recognizing the armor, welcoming its new bearer. A console rose slowly from the floor, powered by ancient tech that still lived in the stone as Jack touched it. The whispers turned into voices, overlapping. In hundreds of languages, the armor translated, "You are not the first, but you may be the last." The war was never over. They will come when they feel the armor's breath again. Suddenly, a part of the console opened, revealing a holographic star map, blinking red. A signal had been sent out long range, untraceable by modern scanners. It was a call, a message, and it had already been heard. Jack's breath caught in his throat. The armor pulsed. "They are waking," it said, "and they remember what this armor did to them." The forgotten wreckage wasn't just a grave, it was a gate, and Jack had just turned the key. Back at the outpost, alarms began to ring across the alien systems. A fleet's shadow appeared on long-range sensors. Unknown, fast, and headed directly toward them. But it wasn't the human Jack they feared now. It was what he had become. Jack stood before the throne of metal and memory, not as a visitor, but as something the room had been waiting for. The moment he touched the ancient control panel, the armor hummed with power. Brighter than before, as if excited, the chamber lit up, showing murals carved by long-dead hands, images of giants, fire, and battles that shattered galaxies. But one figure appeared again and again, a lone warrior in the same armor Jack now wore. Leading armies, facing gods, standing alone against entire fleets. He wasn't just a soldier, he was legend. He was judgment, and now Jack wore the same. Skin, Jack didn't ask for this. He didn't come looking for war. He only wanted to be more than a joke, more than the soft skin working dirty jobs at the edge of space. But the armor didn't care what he wanted. It had chosen him. Why? Jack didn't know. The AI voice returned soft.com, but filled with weight. You match the frequency, it said. Your spirit aligns with the core command. What command? Jack asked quietly. Protect, survive, reclaim. Suddenly, the walls shifted again, revealing a sealed pod behind the throne. As it opened, it revealed a smaller, darker version of the Armora companion unit. Built for stealth and speed, the voice spoke again. Take it. You will need it soon. Jack reached forward, and the unit collapsed into a small orb, absorbing into his gauntlet like it was made of liquid metal. It was clear now. This armor wasn't just a tool, it was a living weapon, and it had plans. As he walked back through the ship, the armor began feeding more data into his mind maps of ancient systems. Locations of forgotten battlefields, names of enemy species long extinct. Or perhaps hiding. Every step he took, he felt heavier, not from the armor's weight, but from what it meant to carry this legacy. Back at the outpost, the aliens watched from shadows. Whispers spread like fire. Some believed Jack had unlocked cursed technology. Others feared he would bring war to their door. A few even considered eliminating him before it got worse. But no one moved, because Jack now walked differently. Like gravity bent around him. One bold alien, Commander Thux, approached Jack in the corridor, tall and covered in silver armor, his tone mocking. You think wearing an old shell makes you powerful, human? Jack didn't answer at first. He simply turned and looked Thux in the eyes. The armor read the alien's energy signature, battle history, and calculated a dozen ways to defeat him in 2 seconds. I don't think I'm powerful, Jack replied. But something inside this armor does, and it doesn't care what you think. Thux laughed loudly, but as he walked away, his fingers twitched near his sidearm. Something had changed, and he knew it that night. Jack returned to the ship again. Not for answers, but for control. He sat in the command seat, and the ship lit up for the first time in centuries. The armor linked with the ship's systems, reactivating dormant protocols, repair drones, and defensive shields. The AI spoke again. You are now the registered prime wielder. You hold the authority of the original bearer. Who was he? Jack asked. Silence for a moment. The one who ended the second collapse. The one who turned a dying galaxy into a grave for tyrants. Jack leaned back slowly. That armor had not just been feared. He'd changed history, and now it was his. Suddenly, the ship displayed a blinking light, an approaching vessel. Alien in origin, and fast. The outpost scanners had picked it up earlier, but dismissed it as a false reading. But the armor confirmed it. Recon ship. Old enemy signature. They know. The armor has awakened. Jack stood, his pulse steady. Let them come, he whispered. The armor tightened, as if smiling, back outside. The sky above the outpost darkened. A single ship, black and sharp like a blade, entered the system, moving like a ghost. Silent and swift. It wasn't here to negotiate inside the ancient ship. The walls whispered louder now, not in fear, but in readiness, and in the heart of it all stood Jack. No longer a joke, no longer just a human. He was something else now. The armor had chosen him, and soon, the galaxy would know why. For days, the aliens at Outpost 47 continued to laugh behind Jack's back. They still called him the human clown, even though none of them had seen him up close since the strange energy spike. They whispered about the ancient ship he explored, but no one dared to follow. They thought the human was just pretending to be something great, but the truth was already moving beneath their feet. The wrecked ship Jack had found was no longer dead. Repair drones now crawled through its halls, restoring lights, repairing the structure, unlocking secrets that had been buried for 10,000 years and deep inside. The armor, now fully active, continued to bond with Jack's mind and body. He was no longer just wearing it. He was becoming it. One morning, the main power grid of the outpost failed. All lights went out, screens shut down, and emergency systems flickered. Panic spread, but the engineers could find no cause. Then, the comms channels were hijacked not by a hacker, but by something far older. A symbol appeared on every screen, a flaming eye with two curved wings behind it. Some of the oldest aliens recognized it instantly and froze in fear. "That's not possible," one whispered. "That's the warlord's mark, the mark of the legendary destroyer, the one whose armor Jack now wore." At that moment, Jack stepped into the main hangar. His presence was silent, but every alien turned toward him like he carried gravity. The armor had formed again around his body, sleek black, with pulsing blue veins of energy. It moved like a second skin, alive and powerful. One of the guards stepped forward, raising his blaster. "You're not allowed here in that gear, human. Remove it now." Jack didn't say a word. He simply raised his hand, and the blaster dissolved into dust in the alien's grip. Everyone froze, staring at the empty handle now, smoking in the guard's hand. "I came to warn you." Jack finally spoke. His voice was calm, but it echoed like a storm. "Something is coming, something ancient, something hunting this armor." The aliens exchanged nervous glances, but one of them, a tall reptilian named Voss, scoffed loudly. "You expect us to believe you? A human janitor who played dress-up in an old ruin?" Jack turned his head slightly, and the armor responded. In a blink, he moved forward, grabbed Voss by the throat, and lifted him effortlessly off the ground. The room went deadly quiet. "You don't have to believe me," Jack said coldly, "but you should listen." He dropped Voss, who stumbled back, gasping and wide-eyed. Everyone stepped away from Jack now, no longer mocking, just silent and unsure. A sudden tremor shook the outpost, and alarms began to wail. External sensors picked up a foreign ship entering low orbit. It wasn't broadcasting ID. It wasn't answering hails. It was black, spiked, and shaped like a Predator recon vessel. From a forgotten war, Jack's armor pulsed again. "They've arrived," he whispered. The alien commanders rushed to stations, shouting orders. But nothing worked. The new ship was jamming their systems, blinding them before they could even fire a warning shot. A beam of energy struck the outpost's shield generator, knocking it offline. Explosions rang out, and fear exploded with them. The aliens ran for cover, panic in their voices. Some tried to fight, others tried to flee. But only Jack stood tall in the center of the chaos. The armor had already shifted, covering his face, forming blades over his arms, preparing for war. "Activate external defense systems." The commander shouted, "They're offline. Everything's been overridden." "By who?" "By him." One of the techs pointed at Jack. It was true. The armor had taken control of the outpost's defenses, rerouted power, sealed weak points. Even though Jack hadn't ordered it, the armor was protecting its new host outside the enemy. Ship opened its hull, releasing a swarm of drone-sleek black, needle-shaped killers built for assassination. The outpost was helpless until Jack moved. He launched himself into the air like a missile, crashing through the force field dome. Leaving a trail of blue fire behind him, the drones turned toward him, weapons hot, but the armor reacted faster. Then thought, shields formed, blades spun, and energy pulses blasted outward like thunder. One by one, the drones fell shattered, melted, sliced apart by a force they didn't expect from the outpost. The aliens watched in silence as the human they once laughed at danced through the sky like death itself. Every strike was precise, every dodge perfect. Jack wasn't fighting like a miner. He was fighting like a god when the last drone exploded. In a flash of smoke, Jack floated back down to the surface, landing without a sound. The enemy ship began to retreat, recognizing the armor. Fearing it, the aliens gathered around him slowly. Eyes wide, hearts racing. No one laughed now, not even. A whisper dared escape because the joke had become the nightmare, and Jack the human had become the protector of legends. After the battle, silence returned to Outpost 47, but it was a heavy silence. Not peaceful. The aliens didn't speak unless necessary. Their eyes followed Jack like he was fire wrapped in skin. Not a man anymore, but something far beyond understanding. He didn't walk through the corridors anymore. He moved like a shadow, calm, unreadable, untouchable, in private. They whispered new names for him now, not the joke or the soft skin, but Warlord Reborn, the chosen armor. The human who should not be, but Jack didn't care for names. He couldn't sleep, not anymore. Each time he closed his eyes, he didn't see dreams, he saw memories, but not his own. The armor was uploading data directly into his mind, slowly and carefully, layer by layer, like peeling back the veil of history. Late at night, Jack returned to the heart of the ancient ship. The throne room glowed with soft blue light. The control panel pulsed as if it had been waiting for him. He placed his hand on the console, and the armor reacted instantly. Initiating Phase 2, the AI whispered. Preparing consciousness for combat memory integration. Suddenly, Jack was no longer standing in the ship. His vision blurred, and then he was flying through stars, not with his body, but with his mind. He saw fleets of unimaginable size, ships shaped like beasts and blades, fire pouring from moons, planets breaking apart in silence, and at the center of it all, the first bearer of the armor, a being tall and powerful. Standing alone on a battlefield made of metal and bones, the armor back then was darker, more brutal. It didn't protect, it destroyed. Jack felt everything: the fury, the loss, the cold command to end all threats. The first bearer wasn't a hero. He was a weapon made to finish wars. And the armor remembered every kill. When Jack snapped out of the vision, his body shook. Sweat rolled down his face, even inside the suit. But the AI didn't stop. Your mind must adapt, it said. If you are to survive what's coming, you must remember what was forgotten. Jack staggered to the throne, gripping the sides. Why me? He whispered. Why now? The AI paused for a long moment before answering. Because you are unclaimed, unprogrammed, pure. Because all others were afraid to wear the truth. Jack sat in silence, trying to breathe, but the moment he thought it was over, another surge of memory crashed into his mind, this one personal, painful. He saw the original bearer standing above a dying child on a burning planet, the armor leaking. Energy, the enemy fleeing in terror, but there was no joy. No victory, only silence and a slow fall into darkness. The armor had survived, but its host had not. And since then, it had waited, hidden away, sealed in a dead ship on a forgotten rock until Jack came along. Back in the real world, the outpost began receiving strange signals. Long-range probes vanished. Communication with nearby sectors broke off. The stars were growing quiet. Too quiet. The galaxy had noticed something ancient had reawakened on. It wasn't ready. Inside the armor, Jack began to feel changes. His reflexes had grown sharper. His strength was no longer just physical, it was strategic. He could see battle scenarios unfold before they happened, hear hidden meanings in alien conversations. His brain was evolving, not biologically, but tactically. He knew now that the armor didn't just make him strong, it made him dangerous. Suddenly, a warning rang in his mind. External breach detected. He rushed out of the ship and into the upper deck of the outpost, where a high-security vault was under attack, not by an army, but by one being cloaked, fast, and silent. Jack arrived just as the intruder blasted through a sealed door, using unknown tech. The alien was tall, insect-like. Covered in pale armor, its hands glowed with green energy, and its eyes narrowed when it saw Jack. So, the armor has found a new fool, the intruder hissed. You should have let it rust. Jack didn't answer. The armor activated without command, surrounding him in a full combat form. His gauntlets shifting into twin blades of light. The fight lasted seconds. The intruder was fast, but Jack was faster. Guided not by instinct alone, but by thousands of years of battle experience downloaded into his nervous system. He struck once, clean and final, and the intruder collapsed as the alien faded. It whispered something strange. It won't stop with you. They're coming. All of them. Because you woke it up. Jack stood over the body, silent. His armor pulled data from the intruder's tech coordinates, names, and a final warning in the alien's tongue. The war that ended everything begins again. Back inside the ancient ship, the throne lit up red for the first time. Phase 3. Defense protocol initiated. The AI spoke. They have found you. Jack clenched his fists. His days of being laughed at were long gone. Now, the galaxy feared him. And it was right too. The alien assassin's final warning echoed in Jack's mind like a cold wind through an empty grave. They have found you. Night. Jack stood alone on the outer deck of Outpost 47, staring up at the stars. His armor was silent now, as if even it needed time to think. The night sky looked peaceful, but Jack knew better. Something had shifted in the galaxy, and he could feel it in the silence, in the cold air, in the way his instincts twitched without reason. Behind him, the ancient ship, once dead and forgotten, now hummed with full power. Its core reactor restored, its systems reactivated, and it had begun broadcasting signals, encrypted and layered. But ancient, the galaxy had heard them. And the galaxy remembered what that signal meant in a distant system across the void of space. A dark structure awoke, floating between two shattered planets. It was not a ship, not a station, it was a hive. Built by the first enemies of the original armor-bearer, the ones who once tried to destroy him. The moment the signal reached them, their long-dormant minds stirred again, inside. Millions of drone minds linked with a single command. The armor lives. Send the reclaimers back on Outpost 47. The aliens sensed the shift in the air. Their jokes were long gone, replaced by heavy glances and whispered meetings. Some wanted to run. Others wanted to beg Jack for protection. But no one knew what. What happened next? One morning, 3 alien freighters tried to escape the outpost without permission. They didn't make it. Jack's armor had already detected unauthorized movement and remotely shut down their ships before they left orbit. When the aliens demanded answers, Jack only said one thing. If you run, you'll bring death with you. Stay, prepare. The commanders argued, but no one dared challenge him directly. They had seen what he did to the assassin. They had seen how the sky itself bent when Jack moved, and most of all, they had seen that Jack was no longer alone. He had become one. With the armor, but fear wasn't enough to stop what was coming. The armor's AI spoke in Jack's mind again, its voice now sharper, colder. Long-range scan confirms movement in Sector 9. Reclaimer ships detected. Jack frowned. How long? 72 hours before contact. Based on warp vector. What are reclaimers? They are the ones sent to destroy armor-bearers. They do not negotiate. They do not speak. They simply erase. Jack closed his eyes for a moment. He could feel a weight pressing on his chest, not fear, but responsibility. He had awakened something. And now the galaxy would bleed again if he failed. That night, he went deep into the ancient ship again. Further than ever before, past sealed chambers and corridors lined with old battle scars at the very center. He found a black room filled with stasis pods, each one holding fragments of past armor-bearers. Shattered helmets, cracked gauntlets, burned-out chest cores, the AI explained. These were the ones who came before you, chosen but unready. They wore the armor, but they were consumed by the war. Jack looked at the remains and felt their silence. These weren't heroes, they were warnings. "But I'm not like them," he whispered. "No." The AI replied, "You are the first human. Host, you adapt, you learn. That makes you dangerous, that makes you unpredictable." Suddenly, an alarm rang through the outpost's long-range sensors had just picked up a tear in local space. A reclaimer vessel had arrived early. The stars above rippled, and something monstrous emerged. A ship shaped like a screaming face, covered in black vines and glowing scars. It didn't use radio waves. Didn't speak hit, simply existed. Jack moved to the edge of the outpost, looking up. The reclaimer ship began dropping black pods toward the surface. Each pod was a weapon, a living bomb, or worse, an extractor designed to pull the armor from a host while keeping them alive. His armor shifted, preparing for war. His skin burned with new energy, and his eyes glowed like twin fires. The AI whispered again, "If you fall, they will take the armor, they will wear it. They will become unstoppable." Jack nodded. "Then I won't fall." With a burst of light, Jack launched into the sky, streaking toward the descending pods. His mind flooded with strategies, reflexes of forgotten warriors. Images of battles he never fought, but somehow remembered. The first pod opened mid-air, revealing a reclaimer drone twisted metal. Long limbs and a head that spun like a radar dish. It fired instantly, but Jack was already gone. Moving faster than sound, the sky lit up as Jack tore through the pod and its drone with blinding force. One down, dozens more followed. From the outpost, aliens watched as one human stood alone against a storm of death. And for the first time in their lives, they didn't see him as weak or strange. They saw him as their only hope, and far above them, hidden in the darkness between stars. More reclaimer ships began to move because the real war had just begun. The sky above Outpost 47 burned like a dying sun. Black pods rained down from the reclaimer ship, each one carrying a nightmare. Jack, now fully one with the ancient armor, tore through the air like a missile forged by the gods. Every strike he made echoed across the valley, burning metal, crushing circuits, shattering machines that hadn't known defeat in 1,000 years. But they just kept coming. From below, the alien residents watched in frozen awe. Just days ago, Jack was nothing to them. A joke, a weak, silent human who fixed their broken pipes and cleaned their filthy corridors. Now, he was fire and thunderous storm in human form. But Jack wasn't fighting for glory. He was fighting to survive. He was fighting to protect those who had once laughed at him, and deep inside, he was fighting to prove that even the smallest life could carry the greatest power. The armor had changed. It was no longer sleek and dark. Now it glowed brighter than ever. Gold lines flowed across the black like veins of lightning. A blazing crest appeared on his chest, the symbol of the first bearer. Reborn through him, he had unlocked Full sync, the armor didn't just obey him anymore. It was him. The reclaimer ship above changed tactics. Instead of drones, it dropped a single massive figure. A titan 10 times Jack's size. It slammed into the earth with a shockwave that cracked nearby towers. Its voice roared like breaking mountains, though it had no mouth. Surrender, the armor. Jack floated down from the sky slowly, hovering just above the cracked soil, his eyes burning. "I'm not giving you anything," he said, "but I'll let you have the first move." The Titan charged. Outpost -47 shook. The two collided. In a blast of force that shattered every window across the outpost. Jack moved like light, dodging hammer strikes, slicing at weak points. But the Titan adapted, learning fast. Its arms twisted into blades. Its chest opened to reveal an energy core pulsing red. The battle became a blur of color, speed, and fire. Every time Jack fell, the armor caught him. Every time he was wounded. It healed every time the Titan tried to crush him. Jack rose again, stronger than the AI whispered its final secret. The armor's original power source is beneath this outpost. You are standing on the last fusion core of the First War. You must link it. Jack understood. He flew straight into the ancient ship. The core chamber opened automatically, glowing like a tiny sun. He placed his hand on the interface, and everything changed. The energy surged through his body. The armor evolved again. Wings of blue fire erupted from his back. His fists glowed like comets. His voice echoed with 1,000 forgotten battle cries. He flew back out. Faster than thought, the Titan looked up, and Jack came down like judgment itself. One strike. That was all. The ground split. The Titan felled silence. And then, a thunderous. Shockwaves rolled across the mountains, shaking the outpost to its foundation. The aliens stumbled outside, blinking against the light. Jack stood in a smoking crater, alive, unbroken, and victorious. The reclaimer ship began to flee. It had seen enough. It knew what the armor meant. Now, it knew what Jack meant, and it feared. Jack looked up at the retreating vessel, then spoke calmly into the ship's long-range signal. "Tell your masters, the armor is not lost. It has chosen. And this time, it chose a human." Back at the outpost, no one moved. Then, slowly, they began to kneel, not out of worship, but out of respect. The commanders came forward. One offered his badge. "You don't belong here anymore," he said softly. "This outpost, it's too small for you now." Jack looked down at the armor, still glowing faintly. "I'm still the same man," he replied. "No," another alien whispered. "You're not a man anymore. You're a legend." Days later, word spread across the systems. Of a human who had bonded with the warlord's armor. Of a joke who had become the galaxy's most feared warrior. Of a name whispered, not with mockery, but with awe. Jack, the human. The last bearer, the last bearer. The war spread, the galaxy would never laugh again, because the man they once called weak had become the myth that even monsters feared.